We have a full gym tonight. I'm excited. Thank you, Amanda Miller. So I'm here to talk to you about the National Millennial Community, and we have the founder here on campus, Mr. Bill Imada, but we will leave his introduction for a little bit later. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. Miles will speak about himself, and Adonis will be after that. And we're here, we're part of EOU's National Millennial Community. We're the 3 existing members right now. Yeah, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story, how I got here, how the millennial community is involved with that, and then I'll turn it over to Adonis. So my name is Kim. Some of you know me, some of you don't. I'm originally from Hermiston, Oregon. That's not too far away, about a little over an hour. We're famous for watermelons. So one of the things that I like to say is that I'm a small town girl, but through the millennial community, I was able to expand my horizons and go to the Big Apple last June, and recently in January, I went to Los Angeles. So through this community and through these experiences, I've expanded myself personally, professionally, and academically. And I hope to bring that back to Eastern. Whoop. There it is. Okay, so a huge part of what the National Millennial Community does is it cultivates relationships, not just on campus with my peers and with my faculty, but also across the nation. The National Millennial Community has 26 universities involved. And currently, to this day, as of yesterday, we've spoken with 96 executives from Fortune 500 companies, which is pretty impressive for a small university like Eastern to be involved with that from the beginning. So as far as relationships go, on campus is crucial, and I put the Eastern logo up there. I hope that all of you are cultivating relationships, not only with your peers, but with your faculty as well. So a lot of the faculty here has experiences across, some of them worldwide, some nationally, and they're all very renowned, really world-class teachers, and we're lucky to have all of them. So I hope that you keep them all in your network and keep in contact with them even after graduation. I have 3 quick points, just as personal things. I encourage you to know your why, know what you're passionate about, and why you do the things that you do. I encourage you to say yes to every opportunity that comes your way. You never know what you might miss out on if you say no. And the third thing is to be authentic. I came from a small town, and to go to New York City and to go to LA, a lot of the times I have a different perspective on things. But I learned that I have to be authentic with myself, even in those big cities, and bring the small town mindset kind of to those big urban areas. So with those things being said, I'm going to turn it over to Adonis Shavarian.
Thank you for the introduction, Kim. Wow, what a turnout. Thank you, everyone. Well, to start off, I'm going to give a little background about myself. I'm from Reno, Nevada, born and raised. And honestly, right out of high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do, to be sincere. So I decided to go the community college route, did my 2 years, Walla Walla Community College. After that, coach sat me down. He's like, Adonis, what do you want to do? Keep playing college ball? No, Adonis, seriously, what do you want to do? What do you mean by that, coach? Yeah, like, after you're done playing college, like, let's be realistic. You're not going to go pro. Like, yeah, he's a hardcore guy. Ben Roeder, love him to death. So, yeah, that summer, that spring, let's start there, I committed to Eastern Oregon University, and that summer, in the back of my head, I had Coach Roeder's words of what was I going to do after graduation. So I'm going to give you guys a little fun fact. There's about 4 million students that graduate from universities around the world, whether that be an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, or a PhD, that go into the workforce. So I want to ask you this question. What separates you from those 4 million students getting into the workforce? So, throughout my college career here at Eastern Oregon University, I came across phenomenal peers and mentors that took the time to invest in me. By the way, time is the most valuable thing someone can ever invest in you, because that's the most valuable thing that they have. So, thanks to them, something in me that they give me now resonates me in everything that I do. So, how is it that a community college kid is sitting down up to par with Fortune 500 executives? Would have never guessed it. I've also had the privilege to work with some of the most aspiring young professionals that I've had the privilege to meet. Just some brilliant minds. As you can see, we had the privilege to sit around and listen to the call with our former commander-in-chief. We were invited to the Houston Astros, Minute Maid Park, corporate headquarters, the Golden State Warriors, eBay, Google. A community college kid, really? So, what is the National Millennial Community? So, the National Millennial Community has allowed me to develop my professional network and just the personal growth overall. I could say that the person I am now is not the person I would have thought I'd be if it wasn't for the National Millennial Community about a year ago. So, before I pass it down to my colleague Miles, I want you guys to walk away with something. What kept me going, or how has this been possible? Of course, it's been possible through our founder, Bill Imada, amazing individual, always finds an opportunity to give back, and that's what it's all about. But I have constantly been able to adapt and reinvent myself every time. So, Mr. Winston Churchill has a brilliant quote. To change is to improve, and to change often is to perfect. And what I mean by that, if there's not one way to get something done, there's several things to get things done. So, without further ado, I want to introduce my colleague and good friend, Miles Lupe. Give him a hand, everyone.
Love you, Trav. Will everybody take out their phones for me really quick? Everybody take out your smartphones. Can you hear me all right? Good. Take out your smartphones and get on Snapchat. I know 95% of us are millennials in here. I know Angie has a Snapchat, so be careful. But seriously, get on Snapchat and lean over to your neighbors and take a selfie. Just take a selfie with your neighbors. That's all I'm asking you to do. It's not a trick, trust me. A little selfie. I know you guys all got the technique down. I know you got the selfie technique down. Yeah. Have fun with that. Have fun. Yeah, get in there. All right, guys. Hey, what you just did is what I'm so passionate about. It's why I'm up here. You connected. I'm so passionate about connectivity. I'm passionate about seizing opportunity, maximizing growth, and leaving a legacy. The National Millennial Community has allowed me to capitalize on my passions. It's allowed me to go to LA, San Francisco, meet with some of the most inspiring individuals I've ever come across, to cultivate relationships that I will never forget and I will always cherish. I was introduced by Dr. Sherry Carpenter, and it opened a door, an avenue for me that has shaped me and defined who I am today. Today we're here to welcome, introduce, host our founder, the one man who has shown his commitment, his patience, and his desire to help us, me, my colleagues, and I grow. Please help me in welcoming the Chief Connectivity Officer and Chairman of the IW Group, who has worked with companies nationally, here in America and worldwide, on a large scale, Mr. Bill Imada.
Hey, hey.
Oh,
I got one already. So, hey, Mounties, really good to be here. I've got to work on a little bit of technology, so excuse me for 1 second, and hopefully I can get this to work. Anybody here from Ontario, Oregon? Woohoo! Ontario, Oregon in the house. Anybody here from Weiser, Idaho, where my cousin runs the newspaper? No? Nissa? Vail? Any of those places? Because I'm going to be calling on you. But before we do that, I wanted to walk you through a little presentation, if I can get this to work. You guys have my clicker?
Millennials only take selfies and are shallow narcissists.
Stop for a second, guys. Got to stop this down. Wait.
Millennials only take selfies
Freeze
and are shallow
it.
narcissists.
Okay. Before we start, I wanted to tell you that when we started this organization, I wanted to dedicate it to my parents. I was born in Ontario, and my parents decided to move us to LA. My brothers and sisters went kicking and screaming because they didn't want to go to Los Angeles. And my dad always wanted to come back to Eastern Oregon. And so when my dad passed away, he never got that chance. And my dad always said in many, many occasions, Bill, never forget where you're from. You're from Ontario, Oregon, in Malheur County. It's the poorest county in Oregon. And it doesn't matter where you go, LA, New York, San Francisco, always remember your roots here in Oregon. And I've decided to adopt Eastern Oregon. And I wanted to make sure, because when I went to LA, I got picked on. Everybody said, oh my God, here's this hick that grows potatoes and onions and sugar beets. And I don't want a hick in my area. And so everybody picked on me and said, you know, you're from some place called Nessa or Brogan or Jameson. Where the hell is that? And I said that day that if I'm ever in a position to help people in Eastern Oregon, I'm going to do it. And so today, your team has met over 96 executives from places like Miles said, Google, eBay, Lockheed, General Motors, PBS, the Golden State Warriors, the Houston Astros, and we're talking about vice president and above. And yesterday, Cody led a conversation with the largest design, architecture, and engineering firm in the world with 95,000 employees, the Chief Marketing and Communications Officer, Heather Rim. And he did an amazing job. And she said, I need to know Eastern Oregon University because I did not know that talent existed there. She now knows. So part of the reason why we started this is we wanted to change the conversation and allow you to speak to corporate America, to governmental agencies, because we don't want boomers like me to run the country. You have got to step up and run the country, run institutions, run corporations, run small businesses. We need to step aside for you. And so part of the first thing we did was we got the millennials together from around the country. Eastern Oregon University is a founding member. We started off with 6 or 7 universities. There's now 26 in 25 states in the District of Columbia. And we just added Montana, Wyoming, and New Mexico. Eastern Oregon helped found this. And when we brought these groups together, the students said, we're tired of everybody saying mean things about millennials. It's time for us to change the conversation. So we just want to give you an example of what we did to change the conversation, and you'll probably recognize a few people in this video. So hopefully we could turn the volume up a little bit and you can hear this. Sorry, I gotta sit down here and figure this out.
Millennials only take selfies and are shallow narcissists and don't do anything good for society. Oh yeah, society's gone like this.
66% of millennials expect to leave their job by 2020. It's all about that early retirement, am I right?
Found out that I am a millennial. Do I now have to start growing out my beard and critique anything I find too modern? Hashtag millennial. Just because I'm a millennial doesn't mean I'm a hipster. How mainstream.
Millennials' contributions to society include cyberbullying, Kardashians, memes, bae, side hoe glorification, and the popularity of Uggs.
You're welcome. Only #millennials would accept sneezing into the crook of your arm as a dance move. #dab, #millennial problems.
Millennials would rather spend 30 minutes swiping left and right than watching the news. I have to disagree. You don't have to just swipe left and right. You know there's that swipe up, that super like.
Hey millennials, the only app I needed to meet girls in the 1980s was an appetizer at my local restaurant. How's that working out for you?
It's like millennials either insist on knowing nothing about politics or they insist they already know everything. Thank God they don't vote. Because there's no way that a millennial would actually know anything about anything, especially politics.
Millennials want a new deal. They'll work hard and be loyal if you help them develop skills to advance their careers. I don't know if that's a new deal. To me, that's the only deal.
Millennials are dumb because they aren't thinking what we want them to think. Maybe if we insult their intelligence, they'll come around. If you want us to think like you do, then stop pushing us away.
I am a millennial.
I am a millennial.
And I am Persian.
Latina. And I'm an Asian who was born in Tennessee. I am diversity.
I'm a millennial, and I'm more than a demographic.
And I am a veteran.
An athlete.
And I'm an educator.
A Christian.
And politically active.
And I am a Republican.
Barack, he's awesome.
I'm a millennial, and I'm someone who's willing to work 60 hours a week to get the job done.
I'm a full-time student, and I work 2 part-time jobs.
But I like to work smarter, not harder.
I'm passionate about giving back.
You can't define us.
Like it or not, we are your future. #millennials.
So that was one of our first pieces. I now want to try to get everyone in Eastern Oregon to change the conversation as well. You mean something, and you need to speak up. And I want you to move forward. The next time you do a presentation, no more PowerPoint, no more Prezi or Keynote. And of course I'm using PowerPoint, so please excuse me. But I want to show you a different way to present, so I hope this works. Let's try it. When American companies are looking to target Americans, American consumers, they often think of the average American. But who is this average American today? Well, this average American could be someone that works from 9 to 5. Or maybe they fish or golf, or shop at big box stores, or maybe they eat at quick service restaurants and barbecue. But guess what? There's no such a thing as an average American today. Americans come to places like La Grande from every part of the world, and they bring their ideas, their values, and their interests here with them, and they change the fabric of America. And when they come here, you can't put any of them in a box. But when they come here, they share those ideas with all of you, and they build communities, and they make La Grande a more diverse and interesting place. And they share those ideas, those values, those experiences with one another, and they build new communities. And that's what all of you need to do, is spread out and talk about Eastern Oregon. But if you're a company like Coca-Cola, a lot of these people are saying, what's in it for me, Coke? And why should I care? And how does this shape my world? And that means all of you in this audience have to change the conversation and speak a different language and let people know who you are and what you're all about. And that's where a company like my company comes in, IW Group. Uh-oh, I don't see that again. But I wanted to let you know that the world's changing really quickly, and you need to be on top of that change. And one of the few things that I wanted to mention to you are 3 key points. What I want all of you to do here in Eastern Oregon and along with the national millennial community is to create your own brand identity. I also want you to look at creating your own experience and path. And finally, I want you to inspire to act. And I'm using these 3 key words because Steve Payne, an EOU student, inspired me and created these 3 themes: create, experience, and inspire. And it inspires me. So I'm going to use it as part of my theme today. And what does that all mean? Well, the first thing that you need to do is that you need to look at these words and embrace these words. And these are going to be your mantras moving forward to promote Eastern Oregon University as well as your own experiences wherever you may go. And the first one I want you to do is create your own brand. I work for big companies, so some of the companies I work for today, General Motors, Lexus, Coca-Cola, Pacific Gas and Electric, Farmers Insurance, Verizon, HBO, Warner Brothers, Walt Disney, and many others. And they are brands, but each of you also are brands, and you need to create your own brand. And how do we do that? Is we've got to change our identity. So I came up with my own Bitmoji, heads up, because if you're not ready, I'm going to get you. But the first thing I want to let you know that each and every one of you have the power to change the course of your lives. And you just have to be willing to take that step. And I want to let you know that there are 3 women that really inspired me. And I wanted to let you know that the very first woman that inspired me is Dr. Sherry Carpenter. I wanted to make a contribution to Eastern Oregon University. I wrote to 2 professors. Both professors wrote back to me. One stopped writing. The only one that paid any attention to this nutty guy that grew up in LA but was born in Ontario was Dr. Carpenter, and said, I want to hear what you have to say. I want to add your voice to mine, and I want to change the way we look at Eastern Oregon. And for that, I'm grateful to Dr. Carpenter, because Dr. Carpenter opened a door so that I could meet Adonis, Cody, Kim, Justin Chin, and a number of other people that helped build the national community. Another woman that I wanted to mention to you, because I'm inspired by people in America, and you could learn something from every single American, whether they are born here and are here 7 generations, or were just immigrating here from a different country. And this woman was an Italian-American who wanted to get into retail in Pittsburgh and couldn't get anywhere, because at that time, men ran retail. And her name was Catherine Barchetti. And Catherine Barchetti has a really important quote that I think is very important for all of you. As you try to sell yourselves to new companies and to new jobs, she said, make a customer, not a sale. Make a customer, not a sale. If you want to get people to come to Eastern Oregon, make them a customer, and you've got them for life. Another person that I really like is Maya Angelou, African-American poet who passed away. And one of her quotes is, nothing works unless you do. If you want to improve your life, you've got to take the step to do it. And when you take that step and succeed, you've got to come back to La Grande, or to Hermiston, or to Parma, or wherever you're from, and give something back. But in order to make yourselves successful, you've got to work at it. This is another thing that I've been trying to get everyone to change. A lot of people believe that the best way to get from point A to point B is a straight line. If you're lucky to find exactly what you want in life as quickly as this, that's great. But most of your lives are going to be like this. I want you to know that it doesn't matter which twist and turn you have in your life. You might not get a job, you might be homeless, you might have to go somewhere else to work, you might lose a member of your family, whatever might happen. Always keep your eye on the goal. And it doesn't matter if it takes 1 day to get there or 10 years, as long as you get there. And for all of those people that are struggling to find jobs or to understand and find meaning in your life, that's okay, because I was confused as well. And I finally got what I wanted. I just want to give you a quick example. I wanted to work when I graduated from college at McCann Erickson. And if any of you watched the show Mad Men, McCann Erickson was one of the largest advertising firms in the world, and a lot of people make fun of them on the TV show. And when I applied for that job, I didn't get it. This guy named Greg Yost got the job. Hey, Greg. And I was really mad because I was kind of upset with Greg because I didn't think Greg should get the job, even though he was pretty qualified, and I didn't get it. But I always kept my eye on the goal that someday I wanted to be connected to McCann Erickson. Fast forward 10 years, I sold 49% of my company to Interpublic Group of Companies, and the president of McCann Erickson serves on my board of directors. So even if you do not get from point A to point B tomorrow, keep your eye on the goal because you may eventually get there. And while you're going through that process, I say enjoy the journey because you can learn everything you need to know by taking your time to get there and seeing the value of that experience. EOU, you are an amazing university, and I want you to be proud of where you're at. I went to California State University, Northridge. We used to call it Cal State Nowhere. And part of the reason why we used to call it Cal State Nowhere was because UCLA and the University of Southern California were right next door. And nobody paid any attention to us because we were the state university that was number 2 or number 3. Well, I want you to know that you're getting an amazing education here, and you should thank the professors and the administrators that are here because they're dedicating a lot of time and energy to help you. And just to give you a little story, when I became an entrepreneur, UCLA called me up and said, we're going to give you an award. What? And I went to get my award, and the mayor of Los Angeles was there, and the mayor of Los Angeles gets up and says, I'm really proud to honor an entrepreneur who gives a lot back. And he is a very prominent Bruin and graduate of the University of California, Los Angeles. When I got my award, I said, I went to Cal State Northridge. UCLA needs to do a better job at research. And then later on, I was asked to teach a graduate class at the University of Southern California. So even if you think you're not going to the best place, believe that you can make things happen because you can. And I don't want you to go this way. Every time you're in a situation where when you're rising up and you get to the top of the peak, switch gears, shake yourself up, and try something else. And that will help you to go up and grow and build your career and build your future. I don't want to go through too much detail, but all of you are a brand, as I mentioned earlier, and I want you to protect your brand, and I want you also to support the brand of EOU. And I'm hoping that EOU will go through a branding exercise, but very briefly, if you want to create a brand for yourself and for EOU, these are 5 key pillars, very simple. First one, because all of you are all brands, just like Coca-Cola, just like McDonald's, just like Lexus and General Motors, you're all brands. And the very first pillar that you need to have for your own brand is you need to continue to build equity. That's like putting money in the bank. And every time you learn something new at EOU, you are building equity in your own personal brand. And you also build the equity of Eastern Oregon University. But I want you to know that if you do something dumb, you lose a little bit of that equity and that goodwill. Always protect that equity and use that equity wisely at a time when you need it. Number 2, brand essence. Every brand has a rational and emotional component to it, just like each of you. There are times when you need to tell your story in an emotional way that gets people to understand and relate and connect with you. And there are times when there are rational moments when you need to talk about the value of yourself and the value of the education you receive. That balance is critically important for you to understand and recognize moving forward. Number 3, you all have a brand personality. My brand personality is kooky. I get really kooky after I have a few beers, especially at that new place called Side A. But you all have a personality, and you all need to know who you are, and I want you to be who you are. And even if you're from a small country town like Cove, you should be genuine and true to who you are, because people who mean something will value where you're from and who you are, wherever they are and whoever they are. Number 4, brand value. When you graduate from this college, you got to prove your value not only to an employer, not only to your community and to your families, but you got to prove the value of your education back to the people that help you get there. And that means once you're successful, you need to come back to LeGrand and help somebody else and prove and share that value with others. And lastly, you have a brand promise. All of these people are investing in you. Your moms, your dads, your grandparents, your caregivers, they're supporting you, and your families and your friends are supporting you. You have a promise that you need to make not only to yourselves to succeed, but you have to make a promise to all of them that the energy that they place in you is going to pay off and you're going to do well. So those are the key pillars of branding. This normally takes an entire semester, but I want you to remember that these are the things that you need to build for your own personal brands, but also to help EOU build their brand. I want to go back to experience really quick. I've already talked about creating, and I want you to know that people always think that country people can't do well. Well, guess what? This is Sam Walton. Sam Walton was from a small country town in northwest Arkansas. He now has, his family now has a Fortune 1 company. The largest company in the world is Walmart. And one of the things that Sam Walton said is swim upstream, go against conventional wisdom. Swim upstream and go against conventional wisdom. So you should always question, you should always be curious, you should always not agree with everything you hear and chart your own path sometimes. There are times to agree and there are times to chart your own path, and sometimes you need to swim upstream, and that's okay. So don't be afraid to challenge people. Don't be afraid to go a different direction. And these are some things that I learned from Sam Walton, and I want you to never, ever say any of these expressions ever again. If I can get everyone in Eastern Oregon to change this conversation, you're going to put a nice big jab at Portland State, Oregon State University, and the University of Oregon, because they're all learning something opposite of this. So the first thing I wanted to say is never say we shouldn't reinvent the wheel. If anybody ever says, hey, let's not reinvent the wheel, hiss. Why? Because people reinvent the wheel each and every day. And if EOU could build a better wheel, do it. Number two, if anybody ever says this again, I'm going to hiss at you. It's time for us to think outside of the box. Well, you know why people say that? Because they hire you right out of college, and you go to work, and then they say, you know what, we need out-of-the-box thinking. Well, to me, that means they don't appreciate who you are and what value you bring to the company. You should always think in the box first. I believe the biggest idea, or the next biggest idea that's going to change America, is going to come from Eastern Oregon University. And it's right here in this box, this community. Build something in the box, and then step out, and then come back to the box. It's okay to think in the box first, and then step out later. So if anybody says to think outside of the box, say, I'm going to think in the box first, learn whatever I can, share whatever I can within that box, and then I'm going to step out. Next one, walk the walk and talk the talk. I once heard this in a class, and a Chinese person said, Mr. Imada, why do Americans walk the walk and talk the talk? Why don't they walk and just shut up? Why do they have to walk and talk wherever they go? And of course, he didn't understand the context of that, but I thought it was brilliant. So now, after hearing that over and over again, I was with a Vietnamese woman, and I mentioned this in another class. This Vietnamese woman comes up to me and says, Mr. Imada, you're absolutely brilliant with marketing. I want to start a restaurant in America. I immigrated here, and I want to bring the flavors of my country to America. And I said, that's really cool. What do you want to call the restaurant? And she says very proudly, Mr. Imada, it's going to be called Taste of Saigon Street. And I said, that's gross. I said, Saigon in Vietnam is stinky, noisy, dirty, and polluted. No American will eat at a restaurant where they look like they're licking the street of a dirty city. And she said, Mr. Imada, you're wrong. The noise you hear on the streets of Saigon are music to my ears. The smells you smell on the street corners of my city are like perfume. The food on the street is where people make the best food and have the best innovation in products. I want to bring that to America. So now I tell people, don't say walk the walk and talk the talk, but taste the street. So wherever you go in your life, that's your charge, to get a flavor of the street, the community, the business, wherever you go, and bring that back to La Grande. And lastly, having been born in Ontario and my family is living in Weiser, Idaho, a lot of people tell students, and a lot of students and faculty believe that we need to level the playing field. Guess what? The playing field will never be level as long as I live and as long as all of you live. And as long as you believe that there will be a level playing field, you will never find it. But guess what? I don't want a level playing field. I would rather be in a place like La Grande, where you don't have as much as Corvallis, or as much as Salem, or as much as Portland. And you know what? That's kind of cool. And the reason why that's cool is because people that have less are richer than people that have money. And people that have less come up with the best ideas because you have less. When you have money, you can have anything you want. But they can't take what you have in your head, the values, your experiences, the stories that you bring, and bring it on. And I want you to know, I was asked to pitch a beer company, and I was very excited about it. I only had a day and a half to do it. And I got on a plane with my colleagues, and we put together the most amazing presentation. And while we were on the plane, we realized that we had the wrong strategy. So we immediately started mapping out the new strategy on napkins. And we thought, well, once we get to St. Louis, we're going to put everything onto a PowerPoint and be ready. Well, the plane was delayed because there was a snowstorm in St. Louis. We had no time to change the plan. So we went to St. Louis and we presented our entire campaign on napkins. And the executive assistant yelled and screamed at me and said, "You are an idiot, Mr. Imada. How dare you insult our company by coming up with a plan on a napkin?" And then the executive vice president said, "Let Mr. Imada and his team present. I don't care what it's on." And we went ahead and presented our entire campaign on napkins. And afterwards, the executive assistant walked us to the car and he said, "Mr. Imada, there is no way in H that you're going to get this account. And how dare you waste our time?" And we went back to LA dejected. And then I got a call from Anheuser-Busch, and the executive said, "Mr. Imada, I really loved your presentation. It was excellent. And I especially loved your ski fiesta idea. You've got the job." And I was up shouting and bouncing up and down and doing cartwheels in the office, and the executive of my agency said, Mr. Imada, how dare you get this business? We have a conflict in Europe. We cannot represent that company." And I said, "Well, why would you send me?" And he said, "Because I didn't think you would get the job done." And so I had to call back this company and say, "I can't work on your business, neither can our company, because we have a conflict of interest with another beer company in Europe." And the executive vice president said, "Why don't you start your own company?" And I said, "Well, I can't. I have $80,000 in debt from going to college. Can you relate?" And he said, "Is that the only thing that's stopping you from starting a business?" And I said, "I don't want to start a business. I need to work." 2 days later, I go to the office, there's a FedEx on my chair, and an $80,000 check. And it said, "Get your ass in gear." And that's how my company got started. So, ladies and gentlemen, we had nothing pitching that business, but we had the passion and the belief in an idea to put it on a napkin with a coffee stain on it. You have that same passion, and it doesn't matter if you have all the resources in the world, you don't need them, because the resources that you have on this campus is all you need. So whenever anybody says, we're going to level the playing field, say, I don't care if I don't have a level playing field. I'm just going to build a snowboard to navigate that field. Inspire, and this is some of my last points. Latinos. I don't know which Latino came up with this quote, but the quote is, donde comen cinco, comen seis. Does anybody know what that means? Shout it out. Where you could feed 5, you could feed 6. Where you could feed 6, you could feed 7. Where you could feed 7, you could feed 8. That's what I love about Latin culture, and that's what I love about La Grande in Oregon. If somebody needs help in our state, we will drop whatever we need to do, even if it's the last thing we have in our pantry, and give it to that person. That's one of the true values of Eastern Oregon, is that we would do that. And that's what Latinos do. And that's a very important message for all of you, that if you have a table, leave that table open for new ideas. Leave that table open for a person that you disagree with. Leave that person open. Leave that table open to a competitor. Because you always have something to share, and they always have something to share with you. This is another thing I want you to do, is I want you to remember brand essence, heart and mind. We want to make sure that you help me create an environment, help EOU create an environment where people have a rational thought about EOU. It's a great place to get an education, and my education is amazing. But even more important is you want people to feel like this is home. This is a place that people feel safe. This is a place where people can make a mistake and pick themselves up and learn from that. If you could help me do that, that would be great. Another quote that I wanted to leave on Inspire is Booker T. Washington, who started the Tuskegee Institute. And he said, if you want to lift up yourself, lift up someone else. If you want to lift up yourself, lift up someone else. And that includes someone you don't like. That includes someone you disagree with. That includes a competitor, because it'll all come back to you later on. Another person, Peter Drucker. Peter Drucker said, if you want to predict the future, create it. Mounties, I want you to create the future. And I believe that the next great idea is going to come from 1, 2, or 3 of you. So if you want to predict the future, I expect you to create it, and don't sit around and believe that you can't do it, because you can. And in the future, I want you to tell your stories. Every single person has a story to tell, and you don't need words. You just need the experiences that you have, because every part of America and every part of the world can learn from each and every one of you. So I want to go back to this. Create your brand, experience your own path, and inspire then act. And then finally taste the street. But I want to end with a video clip, and this video clip is a project that I worked on for McDonald's. And I'm Asian American, and we told McDonald's that Asian Americans, even if we're 3rd, 4th, or 5th generation Americans, for some crazy reason, we have a hard time saying to our parents that we love them. And a lot of times we see our white American friends, our Latino American friends, and our black American friends, they're talking to their parents as if they're their best friends. And they're like saying, hey, Dad, how's it going? And they're giving each other high fives. And we're looking at, what, that's your dad? And so my parents would always tell me they loved me by actions and deeds. And one of the ways they told me that they loved me was by making my favorite foods. So I hope you'll like this clip, because this is what I'm going to end with, and this is a little bit of my story.
Dude, yes. Perfect, bro. Absolutely. I'll definitely bring the kettle cord. Yeah, of course, of course. Can't wait to see you. I'll talk to you later. Love you, Pops.
How's your dad?
Yeah, he's just confirming some plans for dinner. My whole family's in town for the holiday, so just kind of making it a big deal.
That's cool. It just sounded like you were talking to a friend.
My dad is my friend. He's my best friend. Isn't your dad your best friend?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we just don't really communicate it that way. I think Asian people, we're not as open and casual when we talk about our emotions like you are.
So your parents don't say what they really feel?
No.
They don't say, I love you?
No.
When you told your dad you were visiting home, what did he say?
Are the tickets cheap? Don't come home unless they are cheap.
But what do you think he really meant?
You're not making enough money at this job right now, so you better save up if you want to have a good future.
See? That's nice.
Yeah, I guess.
What about when you were growing up?
What they said,
Not bad.
what they really meant?
I'm proud, but I cannot brag about you to Mrs. Chen unless you're number one. So practice harder for first place next time, please.
What they said,
Be home by 10 o'clock.
what they really meant.
I know you are not really going to your friend's house to study, and you are probably meeting up with a girl from the piano recital. So be home before I go out looking for you.
What they said,
You can do better.
what they really meant.
Actually, it's amazing that you even got an A-, considering all the hours you play video games.
I love video games.
But I want you to be successful. And education is the only way I know how to achieve that.
What they said,
Did you eat yet?
what they really meant.
I love you, but I don't want to say that. So I'm making sure you're well fed. That's how my parents said I love you to me. And it's less awkward.
That's really interesting. Why do you think they don't say what they feel?
I don't know. Maybe they're just not really used to it. Maybe they didn't hear much when they were growing up.
You can hear it now, right?
Zhenxiang, come help me with the groceries.
Hey, Ma.
The grocery store is so busy today, but I got everything to make your favorite dishes. Did you eat yet?
I love you too, Mom.
I love you.
Aww. Hi, Mrs. Wayne.
Oh, hi, Jackie.
His name's Jake, Ma. The E's silent. I've been telling you this since middle school.
Sorry, Jack.
So, I want to end the presentation and dedicate this to my dad and my mom. My dad and my mom struggled to make a living here in Oregon. They went to Brogan and Jameson, and there's a plaque with a bunch of other Japanese Americans in Brogan, a town of 90 people in Eastern Oregon, because they actually taught other Americans how to row crop. While all of the white GIs and black GIs were fighting Japan and Germany, my parents decided that they would help harvest potatoes in Eastern Oregon. And they decided that they loved Oregon so much they would stay in Ontario. And my dad always wanted to come back to Eastern Oregon and couldn't. So I'm here representing my dad and my mom today. But I also want to end with another quote. You often hear, if life throws you lemons, make lemonade. I say, if life throws you lemons, make lemonade and then sell it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill, and I want to thank everybody for coming. Miles and Adonis and I are all graduating in June, and so one of the things that we decided this fall was that we had to find people to replace us. You know, we wanted Eastern to continue our legacy in the national millennial community, and part of that was finding new representatives. So, guys, if you could all come up here. Cody Singer is leading, and then Garrett, Yasmin, Steve, CJ, and Adam. Yeah. I want to take a minute to brag on these guys a little bit. We brought them on about 2 months ago, and already they've raised the bar so much just for us and within the community as well. So I know Cody has a few words, and he'll wrap it up, and then we'll get you guys out of here. But thank you for coming.
Thank you, guys. I'm incredibly excited to be here with you right now. Can we get on our feet and give it up for these guys? They've just done an incredible job. Thank you. Thank you very much. In addition to that, I want to send a special thank you to Mr. Justin Chin and Dr. Carpenter. Could you guys come out here? Let's give it up for them. None of this would be possible without this group. Finally, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for our founder and chairman, Mr. Bill Imada. Please come out here. These are the people that made this happen. They have worked incredibly hard over the last couple of months to make sure that all of this went flawless. Our goal tonight is to invite you guys to join our family. Something I want to leave with you guys with is something I've learned specifically over the last 6 months or so. All of us are here today because we surrounded ourselves with people who are smarter than us, people who are better than us, people who genuinely care for us, our mentors, our leaders, our family. I am here today because of my mentors, Jeremy David Jones, my mom, somewhere out in the crowd over there, everybody that's important to me, including all of these guys. These guys I can truly say are my family. We want to invite you guys to our family and be able to experience some of the things that we've experienced as well. So thank you all for being here tonight. We really appreciate everything that you came here to be. We want to invite you again to our family. You guys should all have little handouts with QR code readers. Those will give you more access to information. You can sign up, subscribe, those kinds of things in order to gain more information about this. These are the future generations, as well as you guys all, of leaders in our community, and we're incredibly inspired by Mr. Bill Imada. So let's thank him again. If you guys would like to find out more about how to join our family and get involved, remember these faces, subscribe to the handouts that you have, and we'd love to talk to you guys. So thank you all for coming.
Let's get you out of here. I'm okay. Thanks, Phil.